me.
Okay.
Oh, little chill sweat equity podcast and streaming show. It kind of fits because it's still hot in October. A lot of places right now. Sweating through your mask. Sweating through that holiday outfit coming up for Halloween. I'm Lost Smith. Sitting to my right, your left on the tube is Eric Redinger. Hey, you want some value add up front before we bring in power business attorney?
Yeah.
Stephen Fantetti. Look, if you got a website and you need to get some boilerplate legal stuff, this is not a sponsor of the show. We just try to throw a little prize out in the front. Go to getterms.io. I use it when I'm building out people's websites and they don't have that legal stuff. I go make their privacy policy, cookie, banner, terms and conditions, terms and agreement. You can get some free stuff on there, and then, the more custom you need, then you have to start paying. But that's our value add.
What was it? Getterms.
Getterms.io.
Getterms.
Yes.
.io.
.io, or just Google Get Terms and they'll probably pop up. This episode is brought to you by Grasshopper. Try grasshopper.com/sweat. Gets you $75 off an annual plan for your business phone line. You got a business, you got a side hustle, you got maybe you're on the dating apps and you don't want to use the Google Voice. You just want to have a second line so all those creepsters aren't all over you.
Oh, yeah.
That's what the ladies do. They all use Google Voice numbers. You know that?
Yeah, lots of guys need that.
Try grasshopper.com/sweat. Gets you $75 off an annual plan. That link will be in the show notes. 75 bones off an annual plan. Who else is giving that to you, Darlin?
What?
Yeah, I got mixed up between Darlin and
What? What?
ExpressVPN. Try ExpressVPN, a virtual private network. Try expressvpn.com/sweat. Like Key Sweat gets you 3 months free off an annual plan. Get that virtual private network, a computer in the sky, if you want to think about it like that,
Wow.
that you can't get tracked
Amazing.
when you're looking at stuff online. You don't like retargeting ads? I do for people. No more. Won't be tracked on a virtual private network. Want to log into another country so you can go check out Netflix in another country? Boom. Try expressvpn.com/sweat. 3 months free off annual plan. And lastly, Warby Parker, warbyparkertrial.com/sweat. Get you 5 free pairs to try and own. Let's get this party started.
What about
Howdy
my sweat
dowdy.
equity? Sweat equity. Sweat equity. My sweat equity. My sweat equity. What about my sweat equity?
Yeah, we're good. I'm going to get this intro going. All right, this is the longest intro for any guest. I'm going to do this like I bring up comedians with a long hit list. You've seen him in clubs and colleges all over the country. Just kidding. He's a corporate lawyer, a law professor at Western Michigan Law School. He's also a part-time owner of a real estate and land development company specializing in new construction developments and real estate sales. He also represents small businesses through a private law firm called FantettiLegal.com. And he's former college wide receiver. Let's give it up for Steve Fantetti. That's how you got to do it. You got to do an Oprah. When you bring him on stage, you do the Oprah with the name and it.
That was Oprah.
Well,
Got
it's a weak Oprah. I don't want to blow y'all's eardrums out
Right.
or anybody listening. Okay. So, man, it's been forever since you've been on the show. You're definitely, probably the most informative guest we have continually.
Don't say that.
Dude, I send video clips of previous times you've been on when I get asked about why do I need an LLC and why should I have legal documents and why should I protect myself? And I just go, here, he can explain it better like Will Ferrell in the debate at the end of Old School. He's just
I remember last time
he's going to reel it off.
I think Serena was there because she just messaged me a little bit ago.
Serena Faison? Yeah.
On LinkedIn. Yeah, we just got on LinkedIn. I didn't even know she was on it. But I remember last time she was on with you guys, we were all there talking about that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So it has been a while.
You mean 4-time Emmy Award winning Serena Faison? Did I say it right now?
Yes, you did.
Right.
Says yes.
What? I call it phase. I say it Faison like Faison Love.
Serena Faison.
That was like a year and a half ago. But I remember my point of saying all that was we went deep in on entity formations and the challenges and risk assessments of them and all that kind of stuff. So that was good.
Yeah. Anything you're coming across and you're kind of since then, any trends you're getting questions on, like any
I am.
FAQs you might be able to knock out? Because we haven't talked about, I help you, back in the day with Fantetti Legal, but we haven't talked shop about what you're talking about with a bunch of clients or getting inquiries about.
Yeah, I was going to say it's actually a good time to ask that, because from a business standpoint right now, given what's going on with the pandemic, a lot of businesses, depending upon what size you are, but they are facing similar challenges. And I think the biggest one they're facing, other than obviously how to handle their workforce from a remote standpoint and still keep them, feeling like they're part of the company. And there's a bunch of laws you have to comply with, obviously, while you're doing that. But the biggest challenge they're facing in the markets, I think, right now is the commercial real estate market. A lot of businesses are going to have to bend and change the way they're deciding how they want to approach 2021 and beyond about needing, commercial business space, because a lot of them might not. They're realizing now what the pandemic's forced them to do is take another about face to look at and say, well, look, do we need to have all this expensive commercial real estate if we can still conduct ourselves, in a different way as a business and still be effective and have efficiency rates be high from our employees when they're working outside of an office space? Because that's really what office spaces were created for. We're not just to have the interpersonal communication, to be able to have someone at your beck and call. It was really to have a place of focus so people could really narrow down and narrow in on what they're working on on a daily basis. Yeah, so that's changing, and so I think that's going to be the biggest thing. People trying to get out of leases. There's a lot of clients and a lot of businesses I've been representing where they're trying to find ways to maybe get out or to maybe push some of the rent and stuff onto the the back end term of the leases, so that they can maybe find a different way to reassess and decide if they want to stay in, but they're extending that longer. So that's been the biggest thing that I've seen, those trends, those two big issues. I mean, there's a lot of other ones, but I'll focus on those main two, is that workforce efficiency from a remote standpoint, and then two, what you're going to do with the commercial real estate market. And that's one of the reasons why I got really heavy into the residential side of it, as Law, recently within the past 18 months before the pandemic started, which is kind of seen with that foresight where people are going to be working from home. People are going to need homes more now than they will. And that's why I'm looking forward to having a lot of those developments built, because people now realize they want to be in the suburbs, be around things, schools, places to eat, restaurants, markets, those things to survive, because they're not going to be in the office every day. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how that trend's going to change as well.
And you're literally at your house right now doing this interview, and
yes.
You've kind of shuffled your own kind of working environment a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I think I can hear Ev in the background, your son.
No, I've got they're getting call me at the wrong time. I'm getting some new shutters put in all around my house, and okay. You hear some noise, things going on. This guy's banging there downstairs.
Good timing.
Yeah, somebody's getting beat to death.
Yeah,
downstairs.
No, nothing like that.
And tell your son I said happy birthday, by the way. I have
my son's birthday.
Wasn't it just his birthday recently?
His birthday. Well, it's coming November 5th. You were close.
Okay, maybe I had a week early on my kids' announcements.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, no,
yeah, it's okay.
Of course,
nice of you.
No, but you didn't foresee. I mean, you said it. So residential is interesting because the market's never really been higher, I guess.
Correct.
Everybody in a residential real estate situation, all the realtor friends I have are like, there's not enough inventory to sell.
In residential.
In commercial, it's waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Well, I was going to say, there's got to be some kind of conversion. There's going to be a bunch of open office space where there's going to be owners that are going to be like, we need to figure out how to turn this into something livable. And I know there's going to be zoning crazy stuff with that, but like, there's got to be some kind of giant pivot into like something new that's going to come along. There's
got to be a lot of shuffling around in commercial. I mean, if we're talking office space, we're not really talking like restaurants or warehouses, really.
No,
you got to. It's tough because it's commercial so big and specified, depending on the sector. So like restaurants are really fucked. Offices, I feel like.
Right.
I mean, a little bit, right? Oh, sorry. I'm dropping F-bombs, and this is.
Well, no, it's not that. No, it's not that.
I don't want the Florida bar on top of us.
No, it has nothing to do with that.
I'm kidding.
I think I know you are, and listen, I understand your point. There's a lot more. I think there's a lot more positivity people should be having in that space. I think the commercial service industry, including restaurants, bars, those kind of things. I think you're going to see an uptick in that because people can't stay in their houses forever, really. And I think once a vaccine comes out, you'll see a lot more people flooding to those, specific establishments. So I don't think there's going to be as much of a hindrance. I think we're getting beyond that hindrance now, despite a potential second wave coming. I think there's just FDA approval of a drug today that just got on the market for COVID. So I mean, there's going to be the wave of those drugs coming. Yeah. So I think pretty soon you're going to see that kind of level off. And I think a lot of those, I have a lot of clients that are actually doing franchising restaurants, and they're really pushing getting their new establishments built and ready to go. Because I think 2021, you're going to see that uptick. And, at the end of the day, I think that's going to be one of the things that comes out of this, where people can see that, those establishments are needed in society, given the fact that people will probably likely be working from home more. They're going to need those escapes. I mean, 6 million homes were sold in the United States last year. That figure has probably dropped this year down to 4.8 million or 4.5 million, probably by when 2020 is done. Although interest rates are lower, banks are lending, it's a little easier to kind of get money, but it depends if you're even employed because unemployment rate's high. So those things kind of counteract each other and make those numbers look different. But I think, the number of home sales has steadily risen, I believe, over the last 10 years. I think there was a slight dip in 2014, but all this was right after the recession. So you're going to continue to see that scale high. And I do think eventually you're going to see that residential real estate market will continue to stay hot. And there's going to be a big need for new builds. And that's one of the reasons why I want to get involved in it.
Yeah, even in the thick of the spring, when it was kind of, we're still really in the unknown. I talked to a few people, that are higher ups in construction companies. And I'm like, what's the dip you think? Because in my head, I just don't know. I'm not in it every day, so I get to ask questions like just I don't know, like that. Like, have no. It's good to have no assumptions.
They assume you're stupid.
Yeah, exactly. And
rightly so.
Know what you don't know. So I don't go into it and go, hey, I bet you guys are really sucking right now. I just go, what is the impact on y'all? And they were like, it's about 15%, and I'm talking guys. These construction guys do the high-rise stuff around the country, kind of builders.
Yeah,
but it was
those
still
guys are going to face a different perspective. I see your point, because like law firms and all those counting, all those big companies they're up in those high-rise office buildings, and might not even be able to have the same amount of funds coming in anymore, because a lot of businesses cut back on legal fees and things, and they can't afford to obviously keep rent. And if you can do and use a law firm remotely and virtually, which is I think where the trend's going, especially from those particular service, if you want to call them white collar service industries like accounting and law firms, I think they can be done virtually and remotely, and that's where that shift might be. And so that's why that commercial real estate might drop, like you're saying.
On a psychological level, I think a lot of people transition to remote. I really don't think we're that good at it, especially if you're in office.
I'd love to hear that.
I know personally, I like to go into an office a lot more than work. I don't really like working from home because I can get distracted by Shutter installers and stuff.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No, but I'm saying, like, I'll find things to do. My ADHD can go off the chain with a side list of a punch list of things to do, as well as try to work. And
That's
so
true.
like, I know myself that way. I know a lot of people transition. They go, well, this is pretty great. We don't have to spend that much money in rent.
Right.
But what they don't do, and I'm noticing this just anecdotally, is they don't know how to really remote manage yet.
Right.
That's
the thing. Yeah. People need to be managed still. Like, and it's just going to be the Wild West until they figure that out. Like, just whatever, accountability stuff they got to come up with. I mean, most people aren't like you, recognizing that going to an office is a good thing, can be a good thing. Most people get home and they're like, this is great, party time, baby.
Yeah, and again, and what Eric just said is right, and Law, he was compounding on the point that you said. I think you guys are exactly right, because remember when we started this call, I said, those two main things we're seeing is that workforce efficiency and, of course, the commercial real estate market. We talked about the commercial real estate market side. Now you're talking about workplace efficiency. And because the pandemic hit us, out of nowhere, people didn't really have a plan. And so you're right. It's, can you project manage, as Law would always tell me? Can you project manage from afar? Can you still have efficiency doing that? Is there a plan in place? And a lot of companies didn't have it. And so it does create challenges, especially if you're a small business trying to grow and trying to scale. It can be difficult when you don't have that plan in place. You can't have the oversight over all your workers. And then you're not making the strides or meeting the numbers or projections that you're intended to meet, especially by Q4, which we're in now. So, as people strive towards the end of the year to try to show different types of revenue and different results, those things you guys just talked about with that efficiency standpoint that happened probably, towards the middle of Q2, and as Q3 went through, they probably just haven't figured it out yet, or they're still trying to.
Yeah, I'm still impressed that like the school systems did as good as they did, having any sort of plan. Like there was no like, oh well, this could happen. Like and they had a system set up that kind of worked good enough. Like for the parents, it sucked and it was confusing and all that, but it was there, and it passed as an education for that amount of time. We're all happy with it. Move on, that sort of thing. But
not in California and a lot of other states where they're still not. Schools still aren't open in a lot of places, which is
no. I'm talking about just the remote learning.
Oh yeah, I know.
Like side of it.
But
are they just holding them back?
Yeah. It's a patch, though. I mean, it's definitely like
it is.
It's definitely tough to manage both for a lot of people. I mean, you had to really do it. My kids aren't old enough to really do any kind of schoolwork,
Right.
But you're having that kind of foray into like, oh, I got to do homework. I got to really sit down, like kind of stuff
I got
we're
to teach
supposed
it.
to do.
I got to tell you what it is. I'm usually just like, I just put this.
What was that like, Eric? Because you have children, right, that are in school that have homework and have to take classes, right?
Yeah,
how's that been?
They're 8 and 5, right?
Right.
Right.
Yeah. So it was really only one kid at the time. She was in second grade, and it wasn't.
Right.
It was a lot of like, well, where do you go here? And it was very convoluted, and there was stuff spread out because they have to have all these different websites that do different things.
Right.
And it wasn't easy. It's not easy getting your 7-year-old up amped for school when they can just lay on the couch. I mean, they had to do Zoom calls every day, and it was just battle to get her to sit up and not be laying in bed.
It is.
I'm like, yo, come on, man. Like, they're going to, CPS is going to take our baby.
One rule I like, Jordan Harbinger, the former Wall Street real estate attorney that has the Jordan Harbinger show.
It's like 50.
Huh? No, but he what's it called? He had a good rule I heard when I listened to a show right as this stuff was starting to happen, and he's like, get dressed even if you're working in your own house because it creates this weird boundary. Yeah, no.
Right.
That's why I do it. My wife was making fun of me, like I said the other day. She's like, well, why are you dressing like that every time you work from home? And I said, it's funny. You'd be surprised your attention to detail changes when you're simply typing at a computer. You see the cuffs on your sleeves and you realize you're wearing a collared shirt, that you're probably doing something important, and maybe you'll focus differently. And so that's why I make a habit of dressing like this every day, I'm working from home. Instead of wearing like my triple option T-shirt or something.
Yeah, that's our former college football podcast for
R.I.P.
For those.
R.I.P.
Hey man, who knows?
Check it out. 2019. What was it?
The beauty of it is we can always bring it back whenever the world settles out again. But man, college this season would be the worst to ever do it. Anyway.
The Big Ten starts up this week. So
it's so weird. What? He was telling me the top 25. He's like, Louisiana's in there.
I'm freaking out
Coastal
trying to get
Carolina. I'm like, what are you talking about?
Trying to get waiver wires for my top 25 league, and it's like decimated. Like you're starting third string running backs because there's just not enough people playing.
Get Justin Fields, man, you'll be fine.
He got drafted all the way.
First pick.
Friend of the program, Brendan T. Gleason,
nice
comedian buddy of mine. He drafted him and stashed him for 6 weeks. So
he knows what he's doing.
Yeah, it's one of those things where. Look, that's kind of a little bit of a dovetails a little bit into kind of things are opening back up. Florida is definitely the most American state because we're just letting it go, baby.
Yeah,
we're going to be that petri dish, man. And so
a different take for sure.
Well, that's my optimistic, positive take on Florida. When everybody shits on Florida, it's like, look, we're the most American state. Not only do we take care of your relatives that you don't want and they start a new life down here, but
we don't want them either. We don't want to visit your grandma.
And we deal with y'all traveling down here, to go to the beaches and whatnot, go get airbrush T-shirts in Panama City, but but also
tattoos.
get your tit tats and all that stuff.
Well, the governor had a tough decision to make, and whether the governor did it right or not, I think with hindsight, it's really not too much worth battling over that point in a debate right now. I mean, obviously mistakes were made, and obviously that's based on information that probably the government didn't have. But I think,
everybody looks at that and politicizes everything. We really didn't look at economic wise how
it's
bad
hard to strike
this
that
is.
balance.
And then now we're getting data that the mental health of all this, where we maybe shut down way too hardcore, it may be worse than the actual death count. They might say.
That was my point earlier to your restaurant, quote, was basically to tell you that I think some of these service industries, there should be some, movement towards giving more openness to them and realizing the need for them. It's because of mental health. Like I said, you can't just, human beings aren't meant to just be stuck at home all day. They just can't. Human beings by nature are social. They need, something outside of their everyday structure and routine to be able to break that up, the monotony of it. And, if people want to call it being the new normal, I think, a lot of people disagree with that. I think you need to be able to have it where people can obviously, see the world a little bit more, because they know there's going to be restrictions, especially now on a go forward basis, whether you're traveling in by car, by plane, by ship, whatever it is. It's just going to be different now.
Remember
so
when
we want to keep as much normalcy as you can.
They tried to shut down the beaches for like a week, and we were like, that doesn't make any sense with all the rules that we know.
I know.
Remember, it was like, fuck
Well,
that noise.
There's some sense in terms of how you keep them open, in terms of how many people you can have gathered. I mean, obviously, we know the spread can happen, when you're in larger groups like that, and even smaller ones. So, I mean, it's just hard because you're facing a country that's built on its right to be free, and people think that that's being infringed upon every single time. And I think sometimes people maybe lost sight about the fact that, we're all in this together.
Yeah.
And it's important, to understand maybe we got to be smart and sacrifice a little bit of that.
Right. Maybe somebody's not coming at you.
Times.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Maybe
right.
it's not
People
something
aren't
that's
saying
trying
you
to
don't
take
have
from
free
you.
speech. Yeah,
Yeah.
people aren't saying you don't have free speech anymore. People aren't saying you have the right to peacefully assembly. People aren't saying anything. It's just we need to look out for each other to stop the spread, so we can get back, to
Right.
running things in basics like we were before.
Yeah, and
So-
a lot of Americans have a lot of Abby Hoffman in them, and it very like you can't. What?
I don't know who that is.
I was
don't
going to
know
say,
who
for
that
those
is.
of those idiots out there who don't know who that is, go ahead, tell them, Log. You just let them know.
Abby Hoffman, one of the freedom fighters. There's a Netflix movie that just came out with Sacha Baron Cohen as Abby Hoffman,
yeah.
called
I
The
gotta see
Trial of
that.
the
I haven't
Chicago
seen it.
7.
Oh, weird, really?
Very important free speech guy. Very important in the activism and protests in the late 60s and 70s. Maybe one of the first kind of stand-up comics too, in a way.
I don't know.
In the
So
he used
wait,
to get
what,
up,
what
he
was the
used to get-
reference that you were saying? How was,
we all have a little. Americans have a little bit of like, you can't tell me what to do, because it's almost in the DNA of the country, because we really just kind of deflected, and we're like, no, and like we're
Well,
our
right,
own
and it-
thing here, and
and
that's on a
you
micro
felt
macro scale with a lot of people,
Well, right, and then I think you felt it from a business standpoint, because the majority of businesses owned in the United States are small businesses, and when they're shut down and it's their only livelihood, and they feel like they're being tread on in that regard, I think that's what also multiplies the effect of it.
Well, you're a new converted American now. You just voted for the first time. Yeah.
First time.
Yeah.
I just did it. I've been
Congratulations.
an
That's why
American
he's-
Congratulations
since-
on your choices of president.
That's why he's so nice, because he's from Canada. Yeah. So
That's right.
Thunder Bay,
Where
right?
you're like, I'm just gonna skip this one. I'll get
Windsor.
you.
Halifax.
I'll get you in
No,
4
I-
years.
I know it's Windsor.
Tecumseh, Ontario. Tecumseh,
I-
Ontario, which is just outside of Windsor.
I want to meet your dad, the constable up there, man.
I thought you've met him.
No.
Deputy Chief?
I just see news articles when he's pimping, big pimping
Yeah,
over
he's
there.
down here. He's down here a lot. He'll be down here again when this thing's all.
His dad's
said
a
and done.
constable. Isn't that a cool name for running the show up there?
Running which show?
The police.
He's actually deputy chief of police.
Okay, I thought it was. Yeah, I thought it was a
South.
police officer. I don't know. Canada's weird. Might have been the mayor.
Yeah, I was kind of guessing. I was hoping Steve floated through that. I was like,
Isn't
yeah,
that
I
a
think it's
cool
the
name?
police.
Cleaned it up
Steve?
for you.
No,
I cleaned it up for you. What's going
but-
on? What else you want to talk about?
well, you're a future politician.
Allegedly.
You will be. Well, you've got the makeup to be that for sure. I've been saying that since like the first time we met. I'm like, why are you so on point and shaking hands, kissing babies
Why are you so on point, dude?
all the time?
Stop it.
All the time. We were next door neighbors. That's how we met. And I was like, why? Like I'd be like, look at me getting up at 6 a.m. walking the dogs. I'm taking the day, and you'd be
And
running
he's walking back.
from the
Just
gym.
got done with the dogs.
You'd be like, I've been up since 4:30. I just already ran like 5 miles. Just got back from the gym. I'm like, oh fuck you,
Just
dude.
busy.
Yeah.
Just busy, man. Just
No,
got a
but you're
busy
on top of
schedule.
it. No, I say your work ethic is contagious, and it's in a good way. It makes you go like, I can step up my game a little bit more. But work
Always.
ethic and compliments aside, how these things are getting politicized. Are you seeing that in kind of business legal or any legal stuff coming up? Like how this election is going to affect anything for maybe the small business owner that's listening,
Yeah.
or someone that's trying to start a brand and then that like part-time hustle phase where they're trying to get it going. What would change for
Yeah.
them?
You know, that's a great
When
question.
Kanye
Very
is our
pertinent-
president.
Very pertinent question. There you go. That's a question when they have these town halls that maybe you should have went to, stood up and asked it, because a lot of it is going to depend, and businesses are going to be making their decisions, and even what people do with their markets with their money from an investment standpoint with the markets. People think that whoever becomes the next president, or whether Trump remains the next president, of course, is is there going to be a change to the markets, or is there going to be a change to the tax rates? People think, I've been hearing that they say if Biden gets in, that he's going to, increase the corporate tax rate. And so businesses are going to be taxed more. Right now with Trump, rates like the S corp rate and some other corporate tax rates, he reduced a lot lower. And so businesses feel that they're keeping a lot more of their money, and they're able to do things to, maintain payroll, or to, maybe put money into R&D, whatever businesses want to do with their money, but I think you really don't know yet. I think the principles between Democrats and Republicans in terms of how they decide to spend and tax have been pretty clear for decades long. I think there's not really much to dispute about what their views are on that. But really what it comes down to is when someone gets in the office, what they're really going to do. Because I think it's hard to say, because, if Joe Biden wins, and people say right now what you're hearing is that they think he's going to raise taxes on everybody. Then they say he's not going to raise taxes on individuals if you make over $400,000. Then they say he is going to raise the corporate tax rates to generate more revenue for the American government, so they can put money into other social or other programs, etc., or maybe even into fighting COVID-19 and being ready for the future, because they say the country wasn't ready for it when this wave came. But I think you don't know, because you don't know what Congress is going to do, or you don't know who's going to be elected in terms of the representatives and how they'll vote on these things.
I know.
Or if the positions they're taking when they're campaigning are going to be different when it actually comes time to put a bill together. So you really don't know. So there is a lot of unknowns. A lot of clients I know are taking that wait and see approach. People I know who are investing their money are taking a wait and see approach, really, to see what happens, because the market's been fluctuating and it's been different since the pandemic started. So, it's really hard, and not everybody's having access to the markets. Not everybody has money available, to always invest. And so that's a whole different side of it. So people are really waiting and seeing. If you're asking my opinion, to really answer your question and hone in on it, is, there's a lot of unknown and uncertainty right now until this election's done. Yeah. People really don't know what they're going to do to make decisions. They're not growing their business or doing anything until the end of Q4 to really decide how they're going to approach things, especially because of the pandemic.
And it's not just the president, Congress is just as important. It all depends. There's so many variables,
Your state reps count too.
Right.
County.
The closer you are, the closer they are to you, the more important the more they affect your life in general.
Local.
Yeah, exactly. But it's just so convoluted to be like, oh, if this happens, this is going to be so bad, and if this happens, it's like, you don't know.
Such weird tribalism, the presidential election, and like, I don't think it definitely has an effect, but we focus so much,
on
way
our
too
team.
much.
Which team are you on?
It's did you watch the
No.
debate last night? No, because it's pro wrestling. I don't need to know.
Right.
I'm not. Who's undecided watching these things?
Right.
I'm like, ooh, good point.
Know.
I'm sure it sways some people, but it's really just promoting its own kind of echo chamber on each side, to me, at least. I don't think it does it like you can see an effort by the Democratic side big time to get people to vote. Generally, you see a lot of that, because I like to see paid for by who, and then I'll go look it up, and it's like almost everything that's telling you to vote is a Democratic entity that's doing that. Fine, I don't care. I mean, I don't think
there's PACs on all sides.
There is, but I just look at it on a very dumb guy level like that. Like the YouTube interstitial ads I get, it's to go vote. Just generally go vote. I'm just saying, like, vote or die style. This has been a thing for a while now that I think about it.
Well,
like,
I mean, it's a demographics thing for sure.
Right.
Like the people who have a hard time getting out to vote are more likely to vote Democratic usually.
Yeah, and so there's this whole swath of people that don't even
job.
vote at all. You
gotta vote though. You gotta vote. Everybody's gotta
vote or die.
I know Kanye's not going to get in unless you write him in. So that's
you
think I'm not going to write him in? I'm gonna send you a picture of it, because I hate both of them. I
think that's illegal, isn't it?
To take a picture of my own ballot?
I think so.
What if I did it as proof when I mailed it in?
Vote, but I think you should reassess your situation and make sure you're comfortable, because you have the right to vote for whoever you want. Don't get me wrong, but I think you should reassess and do a little more research.
Why? He's a great producer. he's he's a self-made guy, very American, you know, from the heartland of the country, from Chicago. You know, he can collaborate.
Those things.
He
Great
can
collaborator.
He's just a little bipolar, probably, and you know.
I think some experience helps. I think we've learned that, you know, over time too. The past couple years,
it's that thing of like
some experience helps.
Debatable, we focus so. Look. This is not a popular opinion. I do think.
No.
If you want to give Trump, it's okay, baby. No, I'm saying like, if you want to give Trump any credit, he is a master at PR, and I really don't think like. Look, I don't love that he represents the country with what he says on Twitter and stuff, but I think he just goes look over here, like a magician, and then he goes and really does whatever boring stuff. So I've tried to ask people, give me a track record of all the terrible things he's done in 4 years. And everyone's like, yeah, well, he said this. I go, I don't know. I want actions. What were the actions that were bad? And if you tell me about kids in cages, you gotta bring up Obama's era doing it too.
Here's the one thing I can tell you, Law. It's not just action. Sometimes it's also inaction. And that's a quick answer.
Fair point.
A quick answer to, because we don't have a lot of time to get into all that list, because it would be a list to discuss. But I think that's something to pay attention to.
For people listening, we don't get into politics on the show. It's just more of a way to think about anything, really. Like, break it open, and you're 100% correct, because a lot of the times when I'm doing consulting and on the marketing side, I go, who's your number one competitor? And a lot of people will list someone. I go, typically it's not. It's usually the person, the patient, the client, the customer, whatever, the user. It's their decision to not use you at all for no reason. A lot of the time. And you're like, ooh, what's up? You pull that Zen on them. And it's like, okay, you know.
I think, you're absolutely right. And I think that's going to lead to one of the big things we might see in 2021, depending on how companies come out of 2020. I'm looking forward to seeing. I pay attention to this, just basically the acquisitions market. And what that means is there's going to be a lot of mergers and acquisitions happening as a result of some companies maybe not being able to survive at the end of Q4 when they find out where they're at, and maybe they become good target companies to merge with another company. And now you might see some medium-sized companies that could be challengers or competitors, even to my clients or to your clients, Law, or to whoever.
Sure.
And now they're going to be grabbing a pretty good company, that might not be able to make it right now. And then they're going to be just as strong, almost duplicate their efforts. And now there's a brand new competitor out there that you didn't see coming, and they just expanded themselves and were able to, scale and create more market share for themselves. And now the whole challenges in the markets by industry will vary. And I think that's going to be a trickle down effect or unintended consequence, if you want to call it, from the pandemic as we go into 2021. So I'm curious to see what happens with the mergers and acquisitions markets with companies and those target companies that will be coming about, as we move forward.
And if I remember from John Oliver's show a couple of years ago, we're in the era of corporate consolidation like crazy, right? Like there's more corporate consolidation than ever, because
there is.
It's been real, especially in tech, where I kind of lean a lot because the idea of making an app is to sell it to a bigger company a lot of the time, or you really can't compete after a while, because you can kind of get those fundings in the mezzanine level rounds of fundings and stuff, but a lot of the time it's just like you're
gonna need some hardware to back that up eventually.
You get into tech sometimes because you go, I got a cheat code to do this thing that no one else is seeing, and then I'm going to sell it to some bigger entity, like YouTube to Google.
Yeah, you just gotta. It's hard because money helps you stay competitive, because as you grow and scale, the challenges get greater. In order to deal with those challenges, you need more money, or you need to back off the support, personnel, all these things that small companies or little app developers don't have. So it's interesting. We'll see. I mean, you see Google now facing an antitrust, suit from the U.S. government. That's going to be something new that probably people think is coming. I think you might see in 2021, depending upon who gets into office, a breakup of some of these big tech companies, whether it is Google or even if it's Amazon or somebody, because people think there's monopolies out there and things going on. So I don't think there's a denial that some of these big companies are monopolies, but whether or not they should be broken up is a whole different argument for a different issue today. But
not Apple with my boy Tim Cook, War Eagle.
Auburn, War Eagle. Yeah, I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah,
but I mean, again,
they're worried about our privacy. Okay. Yeah.
But this is why I was saying it's interesting to take, a 50,000-foot view on all of these things that we talked about even just during this call, where it's about, what are companies going to do about employee efficiency? What are employees going to do and how they're going to scale their company from a commercial real estate side? What's the mergers acquisition market going to look like? What are small businesses going to do and make decisions on based upon who becomes president? What happens with the tax rates? All these things are now after effects of what's going to happen once the new year hits, once the election's done. and we're gonna have to start looking at all these things. And you really want to get prepared if you're a business right now, trying to have a plan in place to get ready for what you're gonna do if any one of these events happen, because they're gonna come fast and it's gonna come hard. And if you're not ready, you're ready to plan. That's where you're kind of going to be, not moving forward. You're going to be going backwards and having to start over again. So, and that's a big challenge. And unfortunately, there's a lot of things you really can't do, because a lot of these things, they're not at your mercy as a small business owner, medium-sized business owner. You kind of just got to hope for, things to turn the best way they can for you, and get some good advice, get some good attorneys, get some good accountants, and then kind of get yourself in the best position you can with your talent that you can. Whether you need a recruitment company to help you find more talent and, scale it and be more feasible for your business.
I've talked to 100 business owners probably since mid-June, and I keep telling them, look, don't wring your hands. Use this time valuably. Like, if you really are in a weird holding pattern, start working on your strategy. What are your goals to get out of this? Create contingency plans like you're talking about. Do what I used to do every quarter. I used to ask you, hey, go through my agency agreements and let's clean these up, because here are the
still too long.
Yeah,
that's a great thing. That's a great thing.
Still 15 pages, but you're only as good as the four corners of the pages, right?
As long as that's the governing rule, for that contract. But I'll tell you what, the one thing,
you're only as good as your contract is tight, right?
There you go.
No loose ends.
No loose ends. But I will tell you this, because obviously we can't get into everything that a business can do. But if you had to give advice to a business on at least one thing they can do, I can tell you this from what's happened with the pandemic to help set yourself up for 2021 or even towards the end of Q4 is what happened as a result of the pandemic. Even go back to March, April, May, middle of Q2, was a lot of people were getting out of contracts. They were canceling, service contracts, goods contracts. I was a part of having helped people terminate tons of contracts because people were sending in cancellations because they were trying to save money for what's going on. This is a great time, if you are a business owner, no matter what size, to reach out to those companies or individuals that terminated and say, look, have you reassessed? Where are you at? Where can I help? Where can I help you add value? Maybe we can't do a contract for the same amount of money or for the same amount of goods or services, but maybe we can incrementally, slowly go back and help you build up your business. So if you can provide that kind of value add to somebody, I think this is a good time if you had to make one decision to say, well, look, Steve's saying all these things. Where do I start? I think that's the first place you start as a business to really find out how you can get yourself moving forward, and then deal with all the other things that we've talked about that are going to come down. But at least you'll have a good baseline in place, setting yourself up to find out what your margins are going to be, where your numbers are going to be at, how many clients you'll have, et cetera, as you start moving towards the end of Q4.
Yeah, someone read The Art of the Deal by Trump. No,
I've actually never read that.
No, you're really tapping on never split the difference. Like, just because something's going awry doesn't mean you can't salvage something else.
I agree. That I'm a firm believer. No matter how bad the situation gets, there's always a way out. There's always a problem solution.
Don't think binary. A lot of people think zeros and ones, and they go, this didn't work out. We're fucked.
There's always something.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's a big part of American exceptionalism, and obviously, I think that's just a big part of how human nature is. I just think people are always going to keep grinding to find a result, because people aren't always happy with the status quo. I think we're seeing that in a lot of other things, not just from an economic standpoint, even from a social justice standpoint. So I think you're going to see that in every phase or aspect of American life as we go forward.
Throws that out at minute 35.
All right, we'll let you go.
I'm out. We're out of time,
brother.
Right? Oh, okay.
That's a mic drop. Yeah.
I was kind of wrapping it up there for you. But I wanted to stick to some business on this podcast.
Of course, man. Of course. And if you want to hit up Steve here, get to fantettilegal.com and hit him through. Some awesome badass guy made his website, and you can contact him through that.
Did I make this website?
He's behind on my blog post.
What? What, bro? No way. Those are scheduled out. You crank those things out 10 in a row, and I'll schedule them out in months, man.
Yeah. No, all seriousness. Thanks for having me on. It was great seeing you guys.
Of course, man. Let's get together soon, man.
Absolutely.
Later,
buddy. Yeah.
What about my sweat equity?